Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Vula Conversations with me, George, of Vula Unlock Consulting, where we help each other move forward, right? Thank you very much for joining us today. Today we have a very interesting story. I watched this on YouTube and I thought, let me share this with you because something stood out there for me. Okay, so I watched this amazing video from America's Got Talent, which is trending on YouTube. A friend of mine sent me a clip. And so the story goes that sometime in December of 1982, a woman was attacked in Louisiana, and they identified Archie Williams as the victim, as the person who had committed the offense. And Archie went through an identification parade. Eventually, after some attempts, he was identified as the accused. So he was charged and convicted of rape and attempted murder, and was sent to prison in 1984, sentenced to 37 years in prison. So he knew he was innocent, and whilst in custody, he eventually bumped into a project called Innocence Project. They help prisoners who plead innocent and are convicted. So they took up his case, and for 2 decades, believe me, 2 decades, they would not be given access to the files containing the fingerprints that we used to convict him. Eventually, a commissioner ordered that the fingerprints be produced, and which was duly done. And on the 21st of March 2019, Archie Williams was freed after forensic evidence clearly showed that the fingerprints were not his, but those of a well-known serial assailant. And so he was freed. But whilst in prison, he kept himself sane, as it were. He believed that he was innocent. And so on being interviewed on YouTube as to what kept him together during that period, he said something, and this is why I'm talking to you today. He said that on being asked how he got through this dark period, he said that freedom is of the mind. I went to prison, but I never let my mind go to prison. I just want you to digest that, because that's really, really powerful. I've spoken many times on this program about the power of thought, about the power of the mind, about how the mind can determine and does determine your trajectory. It does determine where you end up. It's not the circumstances around you. It's not your environment. It's not your neighbor. It's not your cousin. It's the thoughts that you carry that determine where you end up. Archie Williams was in prison for 37 years for a crime that he didn't commit. Physically, he was in prison, but he told his mind that he was free because he was innocent, and that kept him through. So as we go through the challenges in life, the things that come up against What thoughts are you carrying? What are you telling yourself? What is your mind saying? Because it is that which determines where you end up. Not your environment, but that your mind tells you. You know, everyone who's watched this video has shed a tear or two. And if you haven't watched it, do so. I will post a link to the video below once we're done. You know, 2 lessons for me from the powerful story. Archie couldn't change what the state did to him at that time. But more importantly, he chose how he responded to it. He chose his response. You see, no one can cause you to think something you do not want, what you do not want to think. You have the freedom to think anything that you want to think. No one can force you to think what you do not want to think. Some of you will remember we referred some time ago to Man's Search for Meaning, a book by Viktor Frankl, who was also a prisoner, but during the Second World War. And he said the same thing, that no one can force you to think what you do not want to think. It's the thoughts that you carry. So Archie's story here powerfully proves that point. And the second takeaway from this video is Archie talks about visualizing himself taking part in America's Got Talent. And he visualizes that. And he sees himself taking part in it. But he's behind bars. But because he sits there, he views that, he visualizes that. That visualization manifested. And he actually got on stage on America's Got Talent and showed us what he could do. Really, truly powerful, you know. Some weeks ago, we did a series here called Bring the Future into the Present, you will recall. And there we talked about visualization. If you haven't watched it, look for it on our YouTube site. It's Bring the Future into the Present, where you are visualizing where you want to be and bringing that future to present. And Archie is a perfect example of that which we talked about. Watch this video. It's got some lessons. It's got probably more lessons than I talked about here today. But it's a powerful story. A human story, which has inspired and I'm sure will continue to inspire many people. You know, J.B. Ryan, way back, stated that the mind is the greatest power in all of creation. The mind is the greatest power in all of creation. And he was right. It's the thoughts that you carry that are so important, so powerful, that determine who you are, where you go, and what you achieve. All right, guys, this is George. I'm a life and business coach, a Proctor Gallagher Institute consultant. I work with Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher. I'm a speaker, a facilitator, and I'm also a radio host. All right, guys, so that's it for today. We talk again tomorrow. If you like this video, share it, like it, connect with us, and let's get talking. Stay positive, as I always say. Stay positive. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Okay? Bye-bye.